Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. That's Enroue. Hey, Enroue, welcome back.
Hello, Babz, Rawls-Ivy. Hi
How
there.
you doing? How you be?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, I'm glad temperature's dipping. There's a little bit more coolness in the air after we had a big, all the
Heat
lightning and the
wave.
thunder breaking it last night, hopefully. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So, yeah, it was quite a dynamic. There were some moments of just being able to see the sky light up with lightning, and a couple times it was like the like not the rolling rumble thunder, but the like crack, like, oh, it's splitting
Yeah,
through the air
yeah,
type
yeah.
of thunder.
It was like old school thunder.
Yeah. Overhead, like once was like really overhead, shaking everything. It was pretty
Old
dramatic.
Testament thunder.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in the Orisha tradition, that's a Orisha called Shango,
Okay.
who when he's playing, it's with that thunder and lightning.
Oh, well,
That's
he
like him
must have had a
playing.
high old time last night.
He was partying. Yes. Yeah.
It's a
Yes, I'm
revolution.
good. How are you today?
Listen, it's Thursday and I get to talk to you. Mm.
So I will make the assumption that those are good things.
Yes, they are indeed good. In the words of Martha Stewart, very good things.
Very good things. All right, well, let's do a little chanting. We'll welcome our ancestors.
Yes.
We'll see what arises. So this is a welcoming chant for our ancestors, thanking them for the blessings that they have left for us, the characteristics that are good, and that we are using these things today. We're picking these things up that they've left for us, and we're using them today. That's this chant, Yoruba chant. Ibaba tó fún wa ṣe o. Ibaba tó fún wa ṣe. Ibaba tó fún wa ṣe o. Ibaba tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetẹ̀ fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ibaba tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetẹ̀ fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetẹ̀ fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣẹ. Amen.
Ashe, amen. Right. So what are we who are we speaking about ancestrally today? The world is upside down. So, and we just lost Bernice Reagan, who just passed away, and he was a real presence,
Yeah.
mentally and spiritually.
Yeah, very much so. Um, yeah, so why don't you tell me a little bit about your thoughts about Bernice? What did she mean for you?
I mean, I love I was listening to some snippets of some documentaries and interviews that she was in. And she talked about, she wasn't a singer,
Mm,
but singing came to her and she just sort of created this, came together with this group and they knew that they wanted to do some resistance work, that kind of thing.
right.
And I was quite impressed by, that's really I don't know if I could do something, but I'm gonna go do it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 So before kind of getting into that topic, right? So I heard "Sweet Honey in the Rock" probably for the first time when I was maybe in seventh grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, pretty
Mm.
young, and was like, I was in Boston and was like struck, and actually opened up even just a desire for me to sing, and I actually began taking. I like took voice lessons for a little bit of time. Um, Soon after that, it was like, oh, there's the this combination of, I grew up with activists and revolutionaries in my family and my parents, and so Sweet Honey in the Rock really spoke to that, right? Really spoke to change and spoke to celebration and spoke to grief and spoke to justice. And I wasn't Christian, I wasn't a church person, so like spoke and sang in a way that brought this tradition of black voices, but wasn't necessarily couched. I mean, there's stuff that were spirituals and stuff that comes out of the church and references to Christianity, but that wasn't a central component of it. And so it really kind of touched me in a very, I mean, differently than anything else. And really been with them and have seen them a couple times through their different iterations of who the members are. And so coming back to what you were saying, like this piece of not knowing, like I don't know if I can do this or should, or I don't have the what I think I'm supposed to have to take this step, right? Training, mission, purpose, whatever. Like I don't have that, but I know I want to kind of be with these people and move in this direction. And that's a really powerful and important thing, right? So her saying like I wasn't a singer, right? But clearly she was, right? Clearly, so even if we connected to this chant around thanking our ancestors for what they've left for us, right? So her ability to vocalize, she just didn't create, right? She had the apparatus there and the ability to hear and the ability to sing. And then that opens up something else, right? Because not just the ability to sing, but it's like something else. What is being allowed to move through us? What is being allowed to move through us with others? And there's a lot of power in that, and a lot of power that like we can't figure out beforehand about what it's going to be or what it's not going to be. We just
Hmm.
embody it, trust it, let it move through us to live, right? Not to like, oh yeah, I'm just going to harken back to something, but like to move forward, to grow, to expand, to see what this life really is, to be in it, not just differently, like for the sake of difference, but to be freer. And she really embodied that with some real brilliance and strength and fortitude and work, right? And effort and longevity, right? Sustainability. Not just, oh, now here's this massive thing. It's like, oh, here's this cohort that changes, but is also itself, right? And then also, oh, when is it time to end that part of work and continue with something else, to explore something else? Really powerful.
Hmm.
Really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah. I mean, I'm always stunned when you know your heroes pass on. Like I'm not stunned by death, but I'm always stunned that, like I just assume or imagine or believe that they'll always, do you know what
Always
I
be
mean?
around.
Like they're
Yeah.
always just, you know. Oh, and I guess the body of work that she leaves behind is just that,
Yeah.
her, being present still. So,
Yeah, and that's for us who didn't have a, you know, real personal relationship with her. And then like, there are people where like how she lives on in the lives of people who she was beloved by and who she loved, and that's his own thing, right? That's also her life and her world, right? And there's the kind of those of us out here who are like we're connected to her through the work. Yeah, it's something that I so this piece around like I've been doing a lot of writing recently, and oh, and I guess I'll share it. So I've been writing. There's a piece of fiction that I'm finishing up, and there's actually some more poetry that I've been writing. And actually, for those who are interested in a little taste, you can go to my website, healingandliberation.com, and there's a blog that I have there. So it's under, if you go to that website and then look at the menu, there's a writings/media link, and so you can see some of the poems that I've been writing recently. And I bring that up because, I've done a lot of things creatively in my days. I've been a dancer, I've been a musician, wood carver, played basketball for years. I played through college. I had a radio show during college. I was a DJ for a while. And writing has been something that I've been doing for a long time, but it's really the last few years about like really putting it out and looking, this kind of process of getting things published. And it's a very different thing, this writing, and for a couple of reasons. One is there's no real hiding in terms of the way that I'm writing. There's no real hiding, and in so many other forms in media, you can kind of disappear behind the work, right? Or it's kind of gone, right? If I'm dancing or playing music, right, it's just kind of there in the moment, and then it's gone, unless it's recorded. But there's a way that you can perform a thing, and it's not necessarily a clear. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling, right? There's interpretation. There's abstraction in it. And writing, yes, there's creativity, there's some abstraction in the poetry, but it's really like, this is how I think, this is how I feel about things. And so there's a lot more vulnerability and kind of honesty in that, or being visible, right? There's not the same kind of way I can like move to the side. So that's a really is beautiful in that way, and there's something important in that, in putting it out now in this way. And some of that actually has to do with my ancestors, because writing is not something that I can't just say, oh yeah, I just like picked it up, or I just learned and studied the craft. As I've looked at my heritage and people, I can see it's very clear to see the writers there. My father's father wrote in courting, and in like after they were married, like wrote love poems to my grandmother, virtually every day.
wow.
And he, yeah, so learning that, I've never read any of them, because so he passed away in like the late 80s, and then my grandmother passed away in 2006, and she destroyed all of them before she passed away, because she was like, these are mine, like these are my beloved's words to me, and they're not for anybody else, which I really respect, and like wish I could have read some of them. Both of those things are true. And my grandmother, my father's mother, I discovered, so there's some pieces that I've come across of hers, some poetry that my aunt was collecting, but then I also found these like scraps of paper, almost like a big like a CVS receipt sized piece of paper with like like story, like some story being written out on it, and it seems like there's like one story that's like on all these different scraps of paper. So in between all of the mothering and grandmothering that she was doing, she would like write these things out and kind of squirrel them away in these scraps of paper. Um, and there are more. Like I have my other grandmother, my mother's mother was a teacher, taught English. Um, I have a great grandmother who was also a historian and documented a lot around um, people who were enslaved and the revolts that they did, which was very not published or publicized in a large scale, but there was a lot of publications on local papers when that would happen. And she actually was documenting a lot of that, and then the place that she was storing them and the church that she was storing them in got set on fire and burned, and all those were lost. But that aspect of documentation and writing and being a historian, and so I also recognize that the writer in me, right, is not just the me, right, but comes like this writing, this use of language to articulate something. Didn't start with me, but something about that in the being of these people and my ancestors, something in them, right, translate into their desire to try to write these things down, articulate some things that are very difficult to articulate. And so that aspect, right, then I hold, right? And so part of the writing, part of the way I'm trying to approach this is also like to remember that, like, oh yeah, this is a part of, there's a not, I mean, there's urgency, because like, as we've been talking about, right, we are only here for a short amount of time, and we don't know when that time is. And so there's this like something about the kind of publishing and putting it out that feels important, which is connected to that legacy as well. And really wanting to share these stories and share the words that come through me.
Mhm.
But that's a way of like this continue to honor, right, what they've left for me, and that I'm using it today, not just to kind of circle back and be self-referential to them and their stories, but like, what does this life have? What is needing to be articulated now? Where's the beauty and the preciousness, even as so much is on fire, so much is so painful, so much suffering, so much seems broken, so much seems to be deteriorating, right? And yet there is still beauty and wonder and glory and love and tenderness, and that's actually also important to highlight and to articulate, and not know, oh, like there's no like grand plan of like this is then what it will do or look like, but like I know these steps to take, right? So we talk about Bernice, and like, oh, I know I need to take these steps. I don't know what's down that road, but I know these steps to take.
Mm. I like that. That's a very that's very thoughtful.
I do a lot of thinking, Babs.
I mean, it's a kind of depth. It's a deep thinking, right? Like it's
Mm,
not, I mean, you are asking and answering. You're asking and then you are answering with support from the ancestors, and you have a clear path to
yeah,
what this is.
yeah, yeah.
And
Those steps.
I don't think most people, I don't think we think about it that way. So I thought I like it. It gives people permission to sort of think about generational, what is passed down generational through us, through our DNA, through our spirit, through our creativity. Like, how do we get that? Well, we can look back.
And then how do we let it live in the way
Mm,
that's relevant for us, right? So it might be someone who has an affinity to like listen to somebody and be supportive, right? And it doesn't have to be some grand thing, right? It's not about like we're all trying to create the big earth-shattering thing. The value, I also see this like the value of writing and community that's been in my lineage was not about like a big dramatic thing, right? I'm nationally known and I created a thing. It was like in the relationships, in the living, and that there's power in that, right? And so the person who really is trying to love and care for their children differently, or neighbors' children, right? Or like other people's, right? The kind of holder of that, right? Or, someone like yourself, right? The way story and people's lives, right? And life is like comes into you, and then you're fostering that, right? By both creating as well as allowing, creating platforms for more people's voices to be heard. Right? And like these are all really important things. Or the person who like their gift is around cooking, and so they love making food for people, right? It doesn't
mm-hmm.
have to be like, oh, I'm gonna be the next top chef, right? But it's to wonder and to be curious about these things that we might take for granted. There's a story. I think I may have said it before. I'll tell you a quick version. It's in the sacred literature of Ifa, and it's something called Ordinary Pumpkin is kind of what we call the story. And it's the story of these four priests who go to do spiritual work for the king, and one of them is always like pushed to the side. It's kind of like, you carry everything and you just like hold the door and you clean up, and you'll still get paid, but like your role is really minimal, right? It's kind of pushed to the side all the time. And this person is just like, I'm just doing what I need to do, right? It doesn't feel good, but they're just devoted, so they're doing what they feel they need to do. And usually the king, after they do their spiritual work, pays them well, kind of pays them, and they live off that for the year. But this one year before they come, the king takes these pumpkins and cuts them open, hollows them out, puts all this wealth inside, like money and fabric and gems and beads and things, and then seals it up so you can't tell that it's been cut open. So this Orisha Eshu kind of puts his hands on it and seals it up, and the marks disappear. So they just look like ordinary pumpkins. So the priests come, they do all their work, and then the king says, "Oh, thank you so much," and hands each one of them a pumpkin. It's like, this is for all your service and your work. And they leave, and they're like, "Oh, like thank you so much for the pumpkin." And when they leave, they're like shocked. Oh, I can't believe that. And so they give all their pumpkins to this kind of lowly priest. Ejiobar is their name, who takes them all. It's like, okay, well, great, I got something, and takes them home to his wife. And his wife is expecting, the wealth to come in, getting paid, they'll be fine for the year, and she sees these ordinary pumpkins, like, what is this? This is ridiculous, and like kind of insults him and rejects these pumpkins and just goes to bed and goes to sleep. And so he puts the pumpkins on the table, and he's like, I don't know, and he's like, I'm just gonna go to sleep too. And he goes to sleep, but hunger in the middle of the night wouldn't let him sleep. So he wakes up, he gets up, and he goes to the kitchen. He sees these pumpkins. He's like, well, I guess I'll just eat these pumpkins, right? And cuts them open. And as he cuts them open, all the wealth pours out. And within a year, he has a new house. He's got horses. He's got a new wife. And he's now honored and respected by his peers and can no longer just be pushed to the back. And in this story, right, how often do we reject these things that we just consider ordinary in our lives? These aspects of ourselves, right? Nah, yeah, sure, I do that, but that's nothing, right? Bernice, oh, I'm not a singer. So had she ignored that, right? Nah, I'm not going to even do this thing. I'm not a singer. Nah, I'm going to go do something else, right? It never would have grown. She never would have had the wealth that came to her in her life. Travel and opportunities and connections and community and liberation and growth and family, all these things. And so as we look at like what gets passed down to us, it can be very easy to reject those things that we just see as ordinary. This is just the way I am, right? Or this is how I see things, or this is how I interpret things, or this is how I communicate, how I live. And so can we embrace and honor and open up and explore these ordinary pumpkins in our lives? Right? We don't always see the value of them in that moment. It's not until we say yes to them and we can be curious and explore them, or till another need pulls us into it. And we're like, oh, now I really need this thing. Oh, that's has some value. Maybe this can, let me explore that. Let me be curious about it. Let me say yes to it.
I like that. That's some good thinking right there. That sounds like an assignment, everybody. Get to thinking.
Yes. Get to listening, right?
Get
And
to
paying
listening.
attention to who you are. How are you in the world? Not you think you're supposed to fit into the world. But oh, here I am. How am I in the world? What are these gifts? What are these blessings? What are these attributes that I might just think of as ordinary? Oh, let me nurture them and nourish them. Let me explore them. Let me open them up. Let me feed on them. See what happens. See where that takes us. We may get the things that we really are yearning for, but we won't know unless we create space for that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. That's a good message for all of us.
I think so.
That's a good
It's,
message,
it,
particularly people who are like struggling about what to do next, or what are my gifts, or what are my talents, or can I learn some new thing, or
mm-hmm. Yeah, or like I'm changing work or relationships have ended. Like, who am I now? Oh, if I don't have that, then like I'm nothing.
hmm
And that's not true. Right? We don't even know. We don't even know. So, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to like own that not knowing, because there's so much control and desire to have safety and security. But it's also important to be curious and be open and to not know. And you can still, like, I don't know what the future holds, but I can trust in these practices. I've learned to trust the step. Okay, I know I can take this step. Well, what is it like 5 steps down? I have no idea what that is, but I'm this is the best step, and this is the best step, and this is the best. And if your journey is that, that's wonderful, right? You look back and there's all these best steps versus like, oh, there's this thing way over there that I think I'm supposed to get to. How do I jump to that? So, little by little, step by step,
hmm
can we listen and explore what that next best step is, even if we don't have it figured out.
I like that.
Because
I
like
like that.
we really don't have things figured out. I mean, life is lifing, right? So let's not pretend that, oh yeah, I got this all figured out. I know what the success is. You do these 5 things and the door is open and everything cascades in and it's bounty. I think we'd all be doing a little bit better or a lot better if that was the case. Here's the one right way. Somehow that's not it.
No, somehow that's not it.
No, no.
Although there are those that will try
There are those who
to
will try
press
and
you to
who will
believe there's
assert that
only one way, but
and who will assert that, right? And
yes.
a system mashing you in. This is the way we educate,
Mhm.
right? This is what job success looks like. This is what relationship success looks like over here. Huh? I mean, that could be a part of it, but there could be other options,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Other options.
so my hope is that people like get curious, which is hard when things are overwhelming. Um, and I recognize that, but finding a way to pause and to listen differently and to listen deeply, like who you are as like a being. Where do I come from? What am I already doing that's it's working? Right? I can be thankful for those things. Then, oh, maybe that's okay if I just keep doing those things that are working and that are good. Or, oh, they did this thing, right? My ancestors, or even other people who I know, or models, or mentors, or people I admire. How are they living? How did they come to that? Oh, it wasn't some grand plan that was worked out, decades ago. It was like almost like following a smell. It's like, oh, there's something's in that direction. Let me go in that direction. Right? Let that be also a way to explore why we're here and what there's for us to do. How is it for us to be? Let's also listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's funny, like listen to that smell, right? Listen to that how that other information is coming in.
I like that. Listen for the smell.
Listen for that smell, the good smell, right? The one that just goes like, "Oh, yes, something is around. I like that." Right? Follow that.
That's a very good message.
Yeah.
That's a good message. That's the right message for today. Listen, be still, listen. Follow wherever, follow the path of what's calling you, what's
Yeah. That yearning. Oh,
that yearning.
can you listen and admit that there's a yearning, and then can you let it come up enough where you can, oh, you want to go this way today or this moment or, all right, let me try that. Try it out. Doesn't have to be the big life changing thing, but little step. Oh, that was nice. Great. Do it again. Do it more. Keep listening for that
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of
That's it.
all the other things that can be so loud, right? That we can be distracted by and pulled into because they're the loud billboards, the screens, media, other people pulling at us what they think that we should be doing, how they think we should be. Find those places and those times. So like, and it doesn't have to be like a big retreat, right? The little, oh, I'm waiting in line, or like I'm on my way to somewhere, and instead of just like I'll just put in my earbuds or I'll just look at the screen, like oh instead of that, let me check in with myself. What do I need right now? You might discover something, and it's
Yeah,
worthwhile because we're not here forever
we're
to have
not.
moments of tuning into what we need.
Yeah, we're only here for moments. And that, that was apparently clear to me with the passing of Alita. Maybe the next time you're on, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, what
Yeah.
people can mean in community when they leave a legacy of good work. We all
Right.
are raised by it. So,
Right. Right. Maybe even in our ordinary pumpkinness, we can Impact. Well, that's the thing. We can impact other people.
Yeah. All the
Right.
time.
Right.
All the time. Well, thank you for another wonderful, rich conversation,
Thank you, Miss Babs.
and I will see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
Be
you,
well.
Harry.
Enjoy the day.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Be cool.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, everyone. Be well.
All right.